So I'm with Marisa Heath, the parliamentary candidates, the Conservative parliamentary candidate for Dorking and Horley, and Opal, the dog.
Yes, Opal the dog, who I'm holding on to, because if I let go, she'll go and choose something in the time that we do this interview, and I'll probably be very devastated to find it's my favourite pair of shoes or something.
Yes, fair enough, fair enough. Now, so we are doing this quick fire question and answer based on you. I mean, you've been knocking doors right across the constituency. Literally, you and your team have knocked thousands of doors.
Yeah.
There's thousands of survey responses and so on. So we thought we'd do this quick Q&A to the top 5 questions that you're getting asked on the door. And then we'll do some more of these going forward, but we'll actually ask subscribers of your email list to ask the questions, and
that'd be great.
we'll use those in a future one of these. So let's get straight into it. A clear sort of front runner in terms of issues is the NHS, and that's clearly a top priority for residents in Dorking and Horley. So if you're elected, Marisa, what are you going to do to improve health services locally?
Yeah, so I mean, the NHS is a massive concern. People know that I've had my own personal experiences with the NHS that I won't go into here, but I think I've had fair experience of the issues in the NHS. And I think it's absolutely vital that people that have paid their taxes their whole life have access to GPs, to hospitals, and to the services that they need to treat any problems they're facing. I think we need huge reform, actually, of the NHS. I think there's some amazing people working in the NHS that I fully recognise, but I also think there's problems with productivity, there's problems with people working in silos, and I've seen elements of waste as well. So one NHS trust can pay a completely different price than another for some of the general things they're getting, whether it's toilet roll or the medical supplies. So what I think we need to do is actually make this apolitical. We've all got an interest in getting the health service right. So I think we should form a committee or a board of cross-party experienced politicians, probably ones that aren't in Parliament now, perhaps ones from the past, probably leading business people, leading health professionals, and we should get them to really have all access to the NHS to come up with a clear plan on what needs to be done. Now, the NHS was set up originally to treat infection and injury, and it's now treating mainly disease and obviously a much bigger population. So that needs to be taken into account. And that's why I think reform's needed, because it's a different beast now. It's dealing with very different things. So I think we need to look at it from top to bottom. I think we need to make sure that it's very much plugged into communities, local communities, and that the population are having their say in how the NHS is run and how the money's spent. So even more democracy and contact with local users. I'm also a real advocate in what I call super health centres. So I think that we've got to get prevention much better and access locally improved. So super health centres for me are places where you'd have the GP, but you'd also have lots of other health professionals. So people dealing with dentistry, for example, people dealing with chiropractors, whatever it is, basically mental health practitioners, all in the same place. And of course, adult social care. And the local authorities connected into those health centres too, so that we're dealing with problems holistically, and we're also dealing with the issues such as loneliness and physical health and mental health, which are often then leading to the problems that fall on the NHS. So that's what I think needs to be done. And I think we need a really strong prevention strategy. And that means upfront investment, which I know is quite hard to take at the moment when we're in economic difficulties. But actually, we've got to think long term on this, and we need the preventative agenda to be really strong. Includes nutrition, as I've just mentioned, includes dealing with mental health, loneliness, all of those sorts of things. We've got to take the burden off the NHS as much as we can when it gets to the extreme points. And that's a moral thing as well, because we want people to live long, healthy and happy lives.
Okay, thank you very much. So another thing that's coming up while you're knocking doors is the narrative around local housing. And the concerns that there isn't enough local housing. What are your views on that, and how do you propose that you might address it?
Yeah, there isn't enough local housing. I've seen that as a county councillor. We can't find staff who live locally. They just can't afford to. So that's often forcing us in terms of sort of social workers and things like that to bring in agency staff, which are much more expensive. So if we want key workers, if we want people working in our health service, if we want people working on our countryside, in fact, in green rural economies as well, we have to provide housing for them. You know, I'm running a piece of work with the government, DEFRA, the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, about the problems we've got finding people to work in food production and farming, and that is the same problem. They can't find the housing, basically. So we have to tackle this. Mole Valley has performed really badly in providing affordable housing, such so that the government had to intervene on this. So we've got to change that now. There's a draft local plan out. It includes a lot of greenbelt sites that I don't agree with. My time exploring this area, both Dorking and Horley, has led me to believe there's a lot of other areas we could build on. Town regeneration, for example, building masonettes. So you've got, you know, apartments with up and down with them, so they're not just boxy flats for people to downsize to. I still think there's brownfield sites. I've spoken to people with brownfield sites that they're struggling to get planning permission on and things in different areas. So I think we've got to expedite the planning process on brownfield and previously developed sites and get things built fast. And by expediting it, it will be cheaper as well. So that's really important. The government has a role to play in helping first-time buyers still. I consider that really important. Young people need to feel that they can buy a home. And we must change this narrative that you're never going to own your own home. No one said that to me when I was in my 20s. We shouldn't be saying it to anyone. We should be giving them that aspiration of finding a way to deliver it. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of work to be done around this. And I think local authorities play a massive role. They need to sort out their planning departments and make sure they are supporting the delivery of housing in the right places, working with local people. So I've spoken to parish councils in Mole Valley, for example, who said that they've identified sites that they're happy to have housing on and they've been ignored. That is not localism to me, and that's not delivering homes. So that kind of thing really needs to be dealt with. I've got many other ideas. I've set them out on my website. I'm starting to set out plans via my website. So if anyone wants to see more, you can go to my plans on the website and click on the one about housing, and I'll put more information on there.
And that's marisaheath.uk.
Yes.
So thanks for that. We'll go to the next question now. And there's a lot of fear actually around national security, and I mean, it is an unstable world right now, very unstable. But there's also a lot of concern around the hacking and Chinese infiltration of our data infrastructure. So, what are your views on national security from that point of view, to protect our citizens?
So it's a really important issue because actually there is a lot of noise around this at the moment. And having spoken to people who work in cybersecurity, they say the attacks from Russia and China and places like that are more than they ever have been. So this is things from disrupting conversations on social media, putting in robots and automated kind of entities and things to instigate conflicting conversations and put fear into people is happening all over the place. And I think it is at risk of undermining our democracy. So we need to push back on this. Now, the government have invested a lot in boosting our technology and IT within the Defence Command paper that they released last year. And I think that's a good thing. I always want to see more money into this, frankly, because I think it is hugely, hugely important. And we're risking kind of internal conflict from the arguments that are being caused. We know that the issues in Palestine, in Gaza, are tremendously big. But the fact that we're having these internal conflicts and issues on our streets and things just isn't the appropriate way to be dealing with that. And I think that's being instigated by other bodies interfering in the conversations. For those who know me, they know that I worked in defence in 2005, 2006. And even then we were saying China and Russia were going to be huge problems in the future, and we needed to prepare for that. I think that we needed to have done more, and I think we need to do more. I'm pleased that our government has committed to meeting the NATO requirement of 2%, unlike most of the other countries that are partners in there. I think we should get to 2.5%. I think we should get to 3% if we can. Investing in our technology and IT and our actual defence equipment is a great thing for this country. It makes sure that our manufacturing capability here is strong. It makes sure that our innovation and science is strong. It employs people. and it protects our country. So I'm a massive advocate of defence spending and ensuring national security, and everything else we do will be undermined if we lose our national security. So it stands up there as vital. We might not think about it every day, but if something happens, my God, we would.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for that. Another very hyper-local issue, I believe, in Horley is around Thames Water and the sewerage issues. You know, if you're elected, Marisa, what are you going to do about that situation? I mean, I know you're already doing a fair bit in your capacity as a cabinet member for the environment at Surrey County Council, but if you get into Parliament, what are you going to do?
So, I mean, it's not just limited to Horley. I was actually in Lye on Monday night talking about their issues of Thames Water as well.
Right.
I think that Ofwat, the regulator, has really failed us on this, but this isn't a recent issue either. It's been going on about 10 or 30 years, and it was because the government introduced the monitoring. I can't remember 2014, 15, I don't know exactly what year, that we started to really see these sewerage issues and started challenging and questioning. And obviously we're seeing more on-road surface flooding and that kind of thing as well, which is making us all very concerned about the infrastructure here. Thames Water haven't invested as we want them to. We have to hold them to account to that. I will leave the issue about their financial situation to one side at the moment, just to say that we are now pulling them in and making them accountable. But also actually supporting them too, because you have to recognise the staff in Thames Water aren't all personally responsible, and they're facing a challenging time at the moment. So, for example, I've instigated a utility task group at Surrey County Council where we can talk about the issues in Surrey, in particular for me, Dorking and Horley, and say, what is the plan to solve them? What are we all going to do collectively to actually get this resolved, and then to monitor that and ensure it happens? So that's been really positive. But on the national level, there's now water and sewage plans. There's a commitment to invest 61 billion in stopping sewage overflows and dealing with the problem. So I think we are on a pathway to getting things sorted out. It's not as fast as everyone would want. I completely get that, and Thames Water will have to prioritise how they're going to do things. It's a sorry state to be in, but I will play my role in holding them to account and also working with them on other issues as well. Utility companies, broadly, we need to be having more conversations with them, and we need to be involving them in our work at both national and local government level to ensure we get the right outcomes. I think we've all learned a lesson from this, and yeah, if anyone's got particular problems in their area, contact me, because I have those conversations with the companies, and I can help raise the issue of problems for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the fifth question is around Labour's plans to impose VAT on independent schools. Now, there are a number of independent schools in the Dorking and Horley constituency. What are your views on that?
Well, you know, freedom of choice to me is really important, and I think I honour that. Parents should be able to choose where they send their child to school, and these are parents that have paid tax and are then paying again and leaving a spot in the state system, hopefully for better education there, for the teachers to be able to focus more on the pupils they've got. So I see it as something that's beneficial for education, not a negative. I've met a lot of independent schools who say they will struggle to take this 20%, and some of which will fold because of it. Parents will make choices. So they may decide to keep their children out of independent schools until they reach, say, 11. So for some of those younger focused independent schools, they will probably be really hit by this and therefore may not be able to continue. And that does mean pupils then going into the state system. I was state educated. I've got no issue with the state system. The priority of government has to be making the state system work for everyone, okay? That's absolutely vital. But if that is benefited by some parents taking their children out of that system into independent, why would you not welcome that from people who've already paid their taxes and contributed fully? And I'm also really conscious that a lot of people are sacrificing holidays, moving home, some of the privilege, nice things that they might want in order to send their child to an independent school. So it's completely wrong to think this is just about rich people going to Eton or whatever. It's not. It's about ordinary people as well who want to do their best for their children. So I think this is wrong, and I think the numbers won't work out, because once you start looking into it and people fall out of the independent system and things, it will have more of a long-term impact financially in other ways, and it won't bring in the revenue that Labour are thinking it will.
Right, because there'll be a large number of people who won't then be able to afford it, right? So
a few people who said, you know, if they've got 2 children, for example, with one, you might just be able to do it. You tighten your belt a bit more. If you've got 2 or 3, absolutely, the impact is way too much. So they will have to take all of the children out, because you cannot leave one child in the independent school and have another in the state school. That's going to be strange for those siblings. So I just think it's been underestimated, the impact. This is ideologically driven. It feels chippy to me, and it's just not going to help anyone.
Okay, well, Marisa, thanks very much, and Opal, thank you.
I was obviously that boring.
So like we say, we're gonna do more of these,
Yeah.
and the questions will be driven by constituents. So we will put that out via your email list. Residents can subscribe to that just by going to your website at marisaheath.uk, and you can subscribe there to hear about when we're going to do more of these. So we're also going to do a Zoom Q&A for constituents who can literally come on the call and ask you questions. That will be on Thursday, the 25th. And we'll put details on your website and on your Facebook page so that people can join that. So Marisa, Heath, thank you very much. And we'll look forward to doing this again very soon.
Great. Thanks a lot.